What if the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest, the richest, or the most admired, but the one who walks in already knowing who they are? No need to prove, no need to explain, just quiet certainty. That kind of presence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from a daily decision to act as if you are the best, not to impress others, but to honor the strongest version of yourself. This isn't about arrogance, and it's not about ego. It's about alignment, Stoic alignment. As Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, meaning what you practice in silence becomes who you are. And when you think, speak, and act from the same core, you gain a quiet confidence that doesn't waver. So if you're tired of waiting to be seen, tired of shrinking in rooms where you should be standing tall, this video is for you. Watch until the end, because what you'll learn isn't just a mindset, it's a way of living. If that speaks to you, like this video, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, and share this with someone who's ready to rise, silently, powerfully, from within.
Number 1.
The foundation is inner alignment. Before a single word leaves your mouth or a single step is taken, your life is already in motion, shaped by your thoughts. You may not see it, but every outcome begins in silence. Every failure, every success, every relationship, every habit. The Stoics knew this intimately. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He didn't write it to sound poetic. He wrote it as a warning. Think low, and you will act low. Think with order, clarity, and purpose, and your life will begin to echo those choices. That's why when we say, act as if you are the best, it's not about pretending or posturing. It's not about arrogance. It's a practice of honoring your highest self, not in theory, but in moment-by-moment choices, because confidence isn't something you borrow from a motivational quote. It's something you build in solitude, when no one's watching. The real work happens in the quiet, when you choose clarity over chaos, discipline over desire, and truth over comfort. But let's be honest, most people live in misalignment. They say one thing and do another. They present a curated image of strength while battling internal disarray, and that dissonance eats away at them, slowly, quietly, until they no longer know who they are. That's why the Stoics teach, you don't chase clarity, you create it. You create it by bringing your inner world into harmony with your outer actions. That harmony is the birthplace of real strength. Now pause and reflect. Do your daily habits reflect the kind of person you claim to be? If someone watched how you spoke, how you responded to stress, how you treated others, would they see integrity or contradiction? These are uncomfortable questions. But the Stoic doesn't avoid discomfort, they lean into it. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself is the moment you begin to reclaim your life. Epictetus was blunt about this. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, identity is not an inheritance. It's a commitment. Most people try to copy greatness by mimicking the outer habits of confident people, but the Stoic builds from within. They don't imitate. They embody. They align thought, word, and deed so completely that confidence becomes their default, not their mask. And this is not just theory. Consider Maya Angelou, a poet, a performer, a woman who experienced unspeakable trauma and injustice, yet rose with dignity and composure that commanded the room. Her power wasn't in volume, it was in presence. And that presence came from knowing who she was and refusing to betray that identity, even when it cost her. That's what inner alignment looks like. It's not perfection, it's loyalty to your core. But she wasn't alone. Think also of Steve Jobs. Known not just for innovation, but for relentless clarity. He didn't build his success by chasing trends or mimicking competitors. He built it by following a deep internal compass, one that demanded simplicity, elegance, and focus. When people doubted him, he stayed aligned. When setbacks came, he recalibrated but never compromised. That inner clarity, though often misunderstood, gave him the strength to build something that outlasted his lifetime. Again, not through force, but through alignment. So how do you build it? First, monitor your mind like a disciplined guardian. Don't let every random thought build a home in your head, Marcus Aurelius asked himself. Is this essential? A question that cuts through noise, anxiety, and distraction like a blade. Ask it often, especially when your mind feels chaotic. Second, honor your promises to yourself. It's easy to perform for others, but the promises you keep in private, those define you. If you say you'll wake early, then rise. If you say you'll stop reacting in anger, then pause, breathe, and choose better. Every fulfilled promise strengthens your spine. Every broken one chips away at your dignity. Third, curate your environment like a sacred space, Seneca warned. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. That's not elitism, it's discipline. Because everything you allow into your life either strengthens or weakens your alignment. The news you consume, the people you follow, the conversations you entertain. These are not neutral, they're shaping your character whether you realize it or not. Fourth, embrace the discomfort of daily self-examination. Set aside time to journal, not for performance, but for precision. Ask yourself, what did I do today that aligned with who I want to be? What did I do that betrayed it? No guilt, just observation. From that awareness comes growth, and from that growth comes power. Not loud, flashy power, but the kind that moves in silence and cannot be taken. And lastly, remember this. External success without internal stability is a house built on sand. You can build the image, you can earn the applause. But if your inner life is fractured, none of it will last. That's why the Stoic invests inward first. They know that when the roots are deep, the storm doesn't matter. Let's return to Marcus one more time. He was emperor, but he wrote to himself like a student. He reminded himself not to seek praise, not to bend to emotion, not to let the opinions of others override his principles. That's humility, that's discipline, and that's why his wisdom still survives, not because of his title, but because of his truth. So when you hear act as if you are the best, understand, it's not ego, it's a sacred duty. It's choosing to live in alignment with your highest potential. Not someday, not when others approve, but now, in the small, quiet, unseen moments. Because that is where greatness begins. And that is how you become someone even you can admire. And here's the most overlooked truth of all. Alignment is invisible until it isn't. You won't get a trophy for thinking clearly. No one will applaud you for keeping your promises when no one's watching. But one day, without warning, someone will ask how you stay so calm under pressure. Someone will wonder how you walk with such conviction. And it won't be because you spoke louder. It will be because your integrity grew so solid. It started to show on your face, in your decisions, in your presence. This is what makes Stoicism so different. It doesn't teach you to chase confidence. It teaches you to become someone who doesn't need to. That's power, not the kind that seeks control over others, but the kind that commands control over yourself. When your thoughts are clear, your values are steady, and your actions are consistent, no one can take that from you because it was never borrowed, it was built. So act as if you are the best, not to impress the world, but to become the kind of person the world can't shake, quietly, steadily, from the inside out.
Number 2.
The practice is daily discipline and presence. It's easy to romanticize greatness, as if it's something that arrives all at once, gifted to the chosen few. But that's not how strength is built. Not in Stoicism, not in life. True power doesn't erupt. It accumulates. Quietly, slowly, through the invisible rituals you choose every single day. The Stoics knew this deeply. They didn't aim to control the future, they aimed to master the present, and that mastery came not from inspiration, but from discipline. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Do every act of your life as though it were the very last act of your life." Not because he feared death, but because he respected time. He understood that each moment is an invitation to excellence, not next week, not in some far-off achievement, but now. That's why the best version of yourself isn't waiting at the end of some grand goal. It's already here, hidden in how you approach the task right in front of you, especially when no one else is watching. You see, goals are seductive. They give you the illusion of progress. They trick you into thinking that success lives somewhere outside you. But Stoicism flips that entirely. It says, don't chase outcomes. Chase presence. Don't obsess over what you want to become. Focus on how you choose to show up right now. Because you don't rise to the level of your ambition, you fall to the level of your habits. That's why the Stoic builds systems, not dreams, rituals, not resolutions. It's not about waiting for motivation. It's about honoring the small disciplines that shape your soul, day after day, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring, because boredom is not the enemy, it's the threshold to mastery. Take Jocko Willink. Yes, he's a former Navy SEAL, but what's more relevant is what he does now. He wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every single day, not for show, not to post about it, but because he understands that discipline is freedom, the freedom to act without being swayed by emotion, the freedom to respect yourself in the dark. His message isn't about toughness, it's about alignment. Discipline isn't punishment, it's proof that you take your life seriously. But this goes beyond workouts and morning routines. It's about how you respond to difficulty, how you hold yourself when things get frustrating, when people disappoint you, when life gets uncertain. Because that's when the true practice begins. The discipline of holding your ground when your emotions beg you to abandon it. And here's where Stoicism shines. The present moment, to the Stoic, is sacred. It's the only arena where virtue can actually be practiced. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That mastery isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It's in the breath you take before speaking, the choice not to retaliate, the decision to keep your word, even when no one will know if you break it. In these moments, you reclaim your sovereignty. Presence is power, but it's rare, because it requires you to leave behind distraction, ego, and the endless pursuit of more. To the modern world, this looks like stillness. But to the Stoic, this is control, where your attention goes, your life goes. And when you own your attention, you begin to own yourself. Consider another example. Stephen Pressfield, author of The War of Art. He writes every day, same place, same time. Not when he's inspired, but especially when he's not. His battle isn't with the world, it's with resistance, the internal force that tries to stop us from doing the work that matters. Like the Stoics, he doesn't wait to feel ready. He honors the practice because readiness is a byproduct of repetition, and repetition, though quiet, is transformative. A Stoic doesn't journal once. They return to the page again and again, not for novelty, but for depth. They don't meditate when life is calm. They meditate so they remain calm when life isn't. Each small ritual is like a brick. One by one, you're building a foundation, not for applause, but for endurance. Yes, discipline can feel dull, but that's where your respect for yourself is forged, not in the big breakthroughs, but in the silent repetitions. Waking early, thinking clearly, saying no to distractions, listening instead of interrupting, standing tall when it's easier to shrink. These are not flashy moves, but they're how you become unshakable. Now think about this. Are your daily actions preparing you for the life you say you want? Are you building yourself into someone dependable, not just for others, but for yourself? Because if your habits don't align with your values, no amount of talent will carry you. Ryan Holiday understands this. He doesn't just write about Stoicism, he lives it. His day is structured, his input is filtered, his priorities are clear, and most importantly, he shows up even when he doesn't feel like it. Because that's what discipline is, showing up anyway. The Stoic way is not about flair, it's about fidelity to your path, to your principles, to your deeper self. This isn't deprivation. This is devotion. Devotion to the person you know you can be. Devotion to clarity, to calm, to presence. When you can sit still with a task, when you can direct your full attention to something without being seduced by the noise. That's rare. And in this noisy world, rare is powerful. So ask yourself now, not tomorrow. Can you be fully here? Can you bring your mind back to what matters? Can you discipline your attention like a craftsman shapes his tools? Because when you do, you become sharp, clean, reliable, not occasionally, but always. This is what the Stoic practices. Not noise, but focus, not motivation, but rhythm, not perfection, but presence. And in that rhythm, you start to see the truth. You don't need more time, you just need more intention. Eventually the world notices, not because you broadcast it, but because something about you feels steady, like a mountain in a storm. And that steadiness, it didn't happen overnight, it was built, day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. That is discipline, that is presence, that is the practice. It's
Number 3.
The result is quiet power and stillness. Real power does not announce itself. It does not need to. True strength walks silently, stands calmly, and waits patiently. In a world addicted to noise, chaos, and attention, the one who can remain still, who can remain composed, is already rare. And in Stoicism, rarity is power. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul," he was not escaping the world, he was mastering it. Because stillness is not the absence of action. It is the source of deliberate action. It is the deep well you draw from before you respond, before you decide, before you let the world dictate your emotions. Most people don't live that way. They live on edge, pulled by headlines, provoked by insults, consumed by the reactions of others. But the Stoic trains themselves to be immovable, not in body, but in spirit. Their peace is not a performance, it's a principle. And that principle creates something that few can fake: presence. Presence is the new power. Not loud charisma, not aggressive dominance, but quiet, steady, self-contained presence. The kind of presence that makes others lower their voice, slow their words, and take notice. This is not learned in a book. It is forged in silence, in reflection, in restraint. Consider Keanu Reeves, a man of few words, a life marked by private tragedies, yet he moves with grace, speaks with weight, and acts with intention. Not because he is trying to be mysterious, but because he has mastered the art of not rushing to be understood. His stillness is not an act, it's the product of pain processed and power reclaimed. This is what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of unshakable calm. Not because nothing happens to you, but because you no longer hand over your power to what happens. You see it, you breathe, you choose, you act. That's power. And it's not only in public life that this applies. Stillness shapes how you lead a team, how you speak to your children, how you respond when your plans fall apart. It's the pause that saves relationships, the silence that diffuses drama, the patience that reveals your control. Yet it's important to remember, stillness is not passive, it's not resignation. It is the most active form of self-governance. Anyone can react. But to sit with a feeling, to examine it, to wait before acting, that is power of the highest form. Seneca put it clearly, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Our mind runs wild when left unchecked, but the disciplined mind, the still mind, does not create unnecessary storms. It conserves energy. It sees what is, not what the ego wants to see. That's why stillness is not weakness. It is restraint. It is clarity. It is the ability to remain grounded even when everything around you is spinning. Look at someone like Jane Goodall, a scientist, a conservationist, but most of all, a woman of quiet conviction. She didn't scream her way into impact. She observed, she listened, she persisted. Her stillness was not passive. It was the foundation of her focus. And that focus changed how we understand life itself. The same was true for Fred Rogers. Yes, Mr. Rogers. He didn't command attention by raising his voice. He earned trust by slowing down, by making silence feel safe. His stillness was not weakness, it was presence. And through that presence, generations of children and adults learned what respect and kindness looked like in action. So if you want to be powerful, don't just learn how to act, learn how to pause, how to observe without needing to intervene, how to hear something offensive and choose silence over defense, how to walk away, not in defeat, but in total control. These moments do not weaken your image, they strengthen your impact. Because when you no longer feel the need to prove, to explain, to correct every misconception, something changes. Your energy returns, your mind clears, your presence deepens, and the world begins to feel your weight. Not because you throw it around, but because you carry it quietly. The Stoics were not just philosophers, they were students of human nature. They understood that the person who speaks least is often the one everyone listens to when they finally do. Why? Because their words are chosen, their emotions are mastered, their timing is intentional, and that makes their silence thunderous. But don't mistake this for perfection. You will be provoked, you will feel anger, you will want to lash out. Stillness doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't act without clarity. It means your emotions don't get to hold the steering wheel. You acknowledge them, but you remain the driver. And when you live this way, anchored, patient, measured, people may not know how to read you. Let them wonder, because your value doesn't need narration. Your peace does not require approval. And your stillness is not a strategy. It's who you are becoming. So how do you practice this? Set boundaries around your attention. Say no to chaos. Say yes to space. Journal before reacting. Breathe before replying. Withdraw from arguments that steal your peace and teach you no lesson. Don't perform control. Embody it. Because stillness isn't about sitting in a corner doing nothing. It's about doing what matters without being shaken by what doesn't. And that kind of inner stillness becomes a form of outer power, a quiet power. The kind that doesn't just impress, it influences. Eventually, those around you start to feel it. They can't explain it, but they trust you more, listen longer, mirror your pace. And the world that once tried to speed you up begins to slow down in your presence. That's the power of stillness. It cannot be faked, it must be earned. So hold your ground, guard your peace, let your calm be contagious, let your silence carry weight, and above all, remember, the loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest, but the stillest. They usually are.
Number 4.
The goal is to become unshakable. What's the point of all this? The inner alignment, the daily discipline, the quiet presence. It's not to look powerful. It's not to impress anyone. It's to become something rare, something immovable, something unshakable. That is the true goal, not fame, not praise, not perfection, but internal stability so deep that no applause inflates you and no insult diminishes you. To the Stoic, strength isn't the absence of pain. It's what you build in the middle of pain. Life is going to test you, not once but constantly, not gently but unexpectedly. And each of those moments is a mirror. Will you collapse or will you clarify who you are? Seneca once said, "Difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body." He didn't say this from a pedestal. He wrote it while in exile, stripped of his position, betrayed by those he once advised. But even then, especially then, he chose not to become bitter. He chose to become better. And that is the Stoic way. Don't waste pain. Use it, shape it. Let it carve away the inessential. Most people try to avoid discomfort, to escape pressure, but the Stoic steps into it, not for suffering's sake, but because adversity is the gym where character is built. Look at Howard Schultz, the man behind Starbucks. He didn't come from privilege. He grew up in public housing, faced rejection after rejection. But he used adversity as fuel, not in a flashy way, but quietly, persistently. When his father died, without savings, without insurance, he didn't crumble. He made it a turning point. That pain didn't make him cruel. It made him committed. And that's what resilience looks like. Not noise, but focus. Because here's the truth. Life will hit you, people will misunderstand you, some will abandon you. And when that happens, the question is not why me, but who will I choose to be because of this? Stoicism trains you for that question. It prepares you not to avoid storms, but to remain standing inside them, to take the chaos and turn it into clarity, to take heartbreak and turn it into presence, to take loss and turn it into purpose. Marcus Aurelius lost children, lost friends, and ruled during plagues and unrest. But still, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't write that after peace. He wrote it in turmoil, and that's what gives it weight. But becoming unshakable is not a switch. It's a direction, a decision made daily. It starts with what you tolerate, what you accept from yourself. Every time you let disrespect slide, every time you break your own promise, every time you retreat into comfort when growth demands discomfort, you weaken your foundation. On the other hand, every time you face discomfort with discipline, every time you keep a promise no one sees, every time you stand tall in the silence of rejection, you add a brick to your inner fortress. And soon people begin to notice, not because you told them, but because they feel it. Something about your energy is different, more grounded, less reactive, more composed. And this is not because you've had it easy, it's because you've done the inner work when life wasn't easy. Still, this doesn't mean you become cold or rigid. The Stoic isn't numb. The Stoic is alive, but anchored, open, but not exposed, compassionate, but not dependent on approval. They feel deeply, but they are not defined by their feelings. That's the difference. That's the power. Look at Oprah Winfrey. She turned abuse, rejection, and ridicule into a legacy of clarity and generosity. Not by pretending she wasn't hurt, but by refusing to be defined by that hurt. Her strength didn't come from always winning. It came from rising, again and again, without losing the core of who she is. Another striking example is Viktor Frankl, a neurologist and psychiatrist who endured the unimaginable in concentration camps. Yet he emerged with a philosophy rooted not in despair, but in meaning. He wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That is Stoicism in action. finding purpose inside the pain, and refusing to let external suffering dictate internal identity. So how do you cultivate this kind of resilience? Start by telling yourself the truth. No more excuses. No more waiting for the perfect conditions. No more hoping someone will save you. Radical honesty is the foundation. Then add structure. Daily rituals that keep you grounded. Add silence. Space to think before reacting. Add courage. The willingness to feel pain without becoming pain. And above all, add purpose. Pain without purpose is suffering, but pain with purpose, that's transformation. When you begin to see every difficult moment not as punishment, but as preparation, you unlock something deeper. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your life, and you begin to live as the sculptor of your soul. Because that's what this all leads to. Not applause, not ease, but dignity. A kind of deep inner peace that no external force can give or take away. And once you touch that, once you feel what it's like to be truly grounded, no one can convince you to live any other way. So stand tall, breathe deep, let the winds blow, let the storms rage. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to explain your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You just have to keep walking, keep building, keep choosing alignment over approval, discipline over ease, silence over noise, because every time you do, you become a little more unshakable, a little more calm, a little more free. And in the end, this isn't just about surviving life. It's about transcending it, about becoming someone who no longer needs to be rescued, because you've learned to rescue yourself. That is the goal, and that is the reward. And now you see, this path isn't about becoming better than others. It's about becoming better than your former self. It's not about proving anything. It's about remembering who you are beneath the noise. Because when you act as if you are the best, not with arrogance, but with inner alignment, you stop chasing power and start living with it. Keep showing up. Keep choosing discipline when it's easier to drift. Keep protecting your peace when others try to shake it. This is not a performance. It's a way of life. Quiet, grounded, unshakable. And if this message spoke to something deep in you, something you've been trying to build or protect or recover, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it. Like this video. Subscribe for more, and above all, walk forward with clarity, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who are anchored. Be one of them.